Hi, this is Shawnee Lavender, the Conscious Moms Coach, and today I'm going to be talking about why some of those time-tested ideas like spanking, timeouts, grounding, punishment, why those don't effectively teach children to behave, as parents like to say, and at the same time keep them whole and emotionally healthy as human beings. So I'm going to tell you why that is, because I know sometimes either if you're on the conscious parenting path and you have people in your life who are not on that path, they may say, oh, well, that doesn't work and you need to do these things because they do work. And sometimes you don't have ideas, well wait, do they work? I don't know. Why do they or why don't they? So I want to give those of you on the conscious parenting path already some information that you can share if you choose to with people who are telling you to do things that don't fit with your values. And if you are doing things like timeouts and spanking and grounding and taking away privileges and things like that, I want to invite you to find some different ways to work with your children. So I'm going to give you some information about why those things don't actually work. So at the end of the video or towards the end, I'm also going to give you a free resource that you can use to help you become more effective in disciplining, which means teaching. I put it in air quotes because people use it in a lot of incorrect ways, but discipline really means to teach. So if you want to be a more effective teacher with your children and at the same time stay aligned with peaceful and conscious parenting values, I want you to have some more tools to do that. So I've got a free resource that I'm going to share with you towards the end of the video that you can use to become more effective. So let me first state a couple of things up front. The methods, I'm gonna group them all together. I'm talking about some of those things I've already mentioned: spankings, grounding, timeouts, or any kind of isolation. I said spankings already. All those types of things. Those are the types of choices that I'm talking about. And they have a common element, no matter which one you're talking about. The common element with all of those, I'm not even going to say the D word because they're not that word. All those punishments is that they inflict pain. So they either inflict psychological, emotional pain, or they inflict physical pain. And that pain is administered, is given to attempt to coerce the child to behave differently than they're behaving. So people say lots of different things, but that is the common thread that runs through all of them. So no matter what somebody tells you, that is actually what those methods were designed to do. They were designed to inflict pain, and therefore through that pain to get the child then to say, unconsciously, oh, I'm not going to do that thing anymore because that does not work out for me. So it's a coercive method, and it's not, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm simply saying it straight. That's what they are. They're inflicting pain to get children to behave in a different way. So for the duration of this video, I am going to be labeling all those things punishment or punitive methods because that's what they are. They are punishments. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you merely want compliance, so if you want your child merely to do what you want them to do or not do what you don't want them to do, if that's the only thing you're going for, and that you're going for that, in other words, your goal is for that to happen only when you are present physically with them and only when the pain is great enough to influence their behavior, then punishment can produce results in the short run. So again, I'm not going to say that those things don't work. Yeah, absolutely. When you hit your child, they will likely stop doing what they're doing. Absolutely. And they're not stupid. So they're going to stop. However, again, it's conditional. So you have to be there to always administer that punishment to get them to behave. And or they have to dislike the punishment enough to not do the behavior. So this is where sometimes parents, those of you out there with older children, if you've got tweens or teens, sometimes you can do all kinds of punishments. They don't care. So it's like, so there you go. They're just what your sole method for getting them to do what you want. But now they've reached a point, for whatever reason, they are immune to that punishment. Therefore, you have no leverage anymore. So again, if you're wanting to have influence in the long run and have your child listen to you and respect you, then you're not doing yourself a favor by using punishment when they're younger. Yeah, they might say, okay, I'm not going to do that. That really hurt when mom spanked me, or that really sucked when I was in my room by myself. So they may do that. However, that's not going to pan out in the long run. So just a couple clarifications, because I'm not going to tell you those things don't work. Yeah, they do. However, I'm talking about what I said at the top of the video. If you are looking to support your child in developing skills of self-discipline and being somebody who makes choices to behave in respectful, loving ways, even when there is not threat of a punishment, then punishment does not work. So, and if you want them to be emotionally healthy in the long run, then they don't work either. Okay, so got that all out of the way and clarified for anybody who had those questions. However, assuming that you one day want your child to grow into an independent human being who does not need you to follow them around for their entire life and tell them what to do and what not to do, and I'm guessing that most of us are striving for that, even though many of us love having our kids around, we're also hoping they'll be these wonderful, independent, healthy adults. So if that's what you're going for, then you want a different way to discipline or teach them when they do behaviors that really don't work. Things like hitting, things like biting, things like taking things that don't belong to them, things like not cleaning up after themselves. Whatever the thing is that you want them to do or not do, then you want a different method. The other reason I'm hoping that you want a different method is that you want your children to grow up into emotionally healthy adults, which frankly, many adults right now are not emotionally healthy. So if you want them to be able to grow up into those adults, then you want to avoid all those negative impacts of punishment. Things like eroding the quality of your parent-child relationship, causing or exacerbating low self-esteem, poor self-image, lack of impulse control, lack of empathy, and even more. So all those things come along with when you choose to use punishment. Those are going to be some of the extra things that come along, even though that's not what you intend to have happen. So that's all my preamble. Now I want to get into why punishment doesn't work as a long-term teaching tactic or long-term discipline tactic. Again, remember, discipline means to teach. So when you think about this, okay, so you've got a child, whatever age, let's say you have a 5-year-old. Now, a 5-year-old, when they do something like they kick the dog or they scream at their brother, you're wanting them, you're like, okay, I don't want you to kick the dog. I don't want you to scream at your brother. So you know what you don't want them to do. And you may even have ideas of what you do want them to do. I want you to be gentle with the dog. I want you to ask your brother when there's something that you want from him, or when he's done something you don't like, I would like you to talk to him in a kind way and try and work it out. Whatever the things are, that requires, for a 5-year-old and for a 15-year-old, no matter the age, it requires skills. So depending on the situation, it may require skills of self-control. It may require skills of insight to know, hey, what's really going on inside of me? It may require communication skills. It may require problem-solving skills. So a lot of different skills need to come online for our children to be effective in managing themselves in daily life. So they need those skills. They also need practice, because it's not like you just say, hey, 1 + 1 is 2, and now they do it all the time. That's not the way human learning works. We need to learn it and get comfortable with it, we need to practice it. We need to master it. We need to fail at it sometimes and go, oh yeah, well, here's why that didn't work. So children need those opportunities to practice and succeed and fail. And long term, again, I'm talking long term, you also want your children to have that extrinsic or not have, rather, they don't need that extrinsic or external motivation. You want them to choose good behavior because that's what they choose versus, oh, let's see, is somebody going to pay me to be nice to this person? Or am I going to get, some bonus at work because I was a nice coworker? You don't want them, those things can be nice extras, right? Oh, yay, somebody, gave you an award for Employee of the Month. And yet, if you need that to behave in a, civilized way, it's going to be rough going. So that's all sort of preamble to why punishment doesn't work. So the first thing is that when you talk about the skill building, which is what we're going for, punishment doesn't work because children learn from people whom they trust and respect. So I'm going to repeat that again. Children learn from people they trust and respect. So when you punish, you inflict pain on your child, and they're going to withdraw their trust from you. We do not trust people who inflict pain on us. Now, there's a lot of psychological challenges for young children when they have a parent who is abusive. It's like there's this cognitive dissonance, like, wait, this is somebody who I love and loves me, but they hurt me, so I'm not getting into that. I'm talking about in general, though, absolutely, when somebody hurts us, we don't get close to them. So we are going to withdraw. So that's what happens with kids. So when you inflict pain on them, even if that's not what you think you're doing, if you're like, oh, timeout's no big deal, it is. Your child is going to experience it as pain, as withdrawal of love. So when they experience that pain, they're going to withdraw their trust. And when they withdraw their trust, they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to respect your ideas. So generally, in fact, when people inflict pain on us, we, and in this case our children, are going to create psychological distance because we want to be safe. We don't want to be near people who are hurting us. So again, when you look at, do you want to have an influence over your child? You don't want to put more distance between you because that's going to make it harder for you to influence them. They're going to be less receptive to you in the future. So that's the number one thing I want you to remember, is that when you are choosing to use punishment, you are inflicting pain. And so therefore, every time you're inflicting pain, they're going to withdraw their trust a little more. Inflict more pain, they're going to withdraw their trust. So pretty soon you've got a distance that's really big and you have very little leverage over them because they don't trust you and they don't feel safe with you. Second reason why punishment doesn't work is learning takes place when the brain is not stressed. So when our brains are under stress, without going into lots of detail, what happens is the more human and more advanced parts of our brain, they go offline. So Dan Siegel talks about this. He talks about flipping our lid. So the human, the prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain that does problem solving, real creative thinking, logic, rationality, all the self-control, those things go offline. And so we go into more primitive parts of our brain, either the limbic system or the reptile brain, which is about our survival. In those states, the brain is, you just went from, I can't give a computer, you went from a 2018 computer to a 1997 computer. Talking huge computing difference, right? So if you're wanting your child to effectively learn new skills to use when they're having problems interacting with a teacher or a classmate, you don't want them to be in a state where their brain is stressed because they won't be able to learn and assimilate those new skills. So the brain in those places is really in defensive mode, and that's all the brain is doing. The brain is saying, how am I going to keep this human being, this child, alive because I perceive a serious threat? That's what our brain does. Yay, brain. So you need that human part of the brain to be online, and that's only online when we're not under extreme stress, which punishment is extreme stress. So the third and final reason that punishment doesn't work as a teaching tool is that learning happens best when a child, him or herself, has a sense of efficacy and competence. So in other words, children learn only when they believe they can learn. And why this matters is that when we are repeatedly punished, whatever the form, whether it's spanking or being sent to our room or, being told we can't go somewhere, our friends can't come over, whatever the punishments are, when that happens to us over and over again, we've got this great thing up in our heads called our brain, right? Which I was just talking about. One of the other things the brain does is it's a meaning-making machine. So it takes data from what it sees, hears, and experiences out in the world, and it then makes up meaning and understanding so that we don't always have to think. That's where we get into our automatic reactions, our habitual reactions, is that our brains have learned, oh, when this happens, this other thing happens, A plus B equals C. So it makes a meaning. So when children are repeatedly punished, one of the meanings that happens, children understand that they're punished because they're bad or they're being bad, right? As a generalizing here, right? So then what happens in their brain is, oh, I'm bad. And bad, our brain is going to lump everything else that we've been told is bad in with that. So depending on your family and the other people around you, you might get lumped in with bad things like stupid, lazy, mean, evil, whatever it is. And it's not to be light about it. It's simply like your brain is going to go, okay, bloop, all these things. So now a child is starting to get this self-narrative that says, oh, I'm bad, I'm lazy, I'm dumb, I'm no good, whatever their words are and whatever they've heard and understood as bad, that's part of what they're getting about themselves. So now they've got this running in themselves. I'm stupid, I'm lazy, I'm no good, things like that. And now you're saying, oh, I want you to learn this new skill and use it. Yeah, that's not happening. I'm not, spoil your parade here, but that's not going to happen. That child has much less ability to actually learn something now because they have a negative self-narrative. They're not going to do it nearly as easily, if they even do it at all, because that's what they've associated with themselves through repeated punishment. So I know it sounds like such a happy video, right? Like, oh, great, thanks for all this bad news. I share it though, because again, if you're on the conscious parenting path already, sometimes you can get flustered and think, well, wait a minute, why should I do this other method? And don't these other methods actually work? Well, like I said, short term, sure, they can work. And yet I want you to have actual data about why they don't work. And if you're considering them, then you can say, oh boy, do I really want those to be outcomes of the interactions I have with my child? And I don't think you do. I think most of us, and even I, fall back on some of these from time to time because they're in me. It's part of what I experienced in my childhood because it's what parents of my parents' generation were told to do. That's what they understood was the right thing to do. So it's just there. And under stress, for me, that's what I revert to. And so all of us can make steps in a more evolved direction where we are supporting our children to behave in different ways, because we all know, yeah, they do benefit from learning, hey, yeah, you don't hit, you don't do these things, although adults frankly give plenty of models that show what not to do as well. But that's not the subject of this video. So we do want to give them those tools, and yet I want you to be able to deliver them in a truly effective way, because I want you, A, to have a really solid relationship with your children. B, I want them to be treated well. I want every child to have a safe, loving home. So that means I don't want you to do punishing in your family. C or 3 or whatever letter I was on, I want you to feel good about yourself as a parent. And I know that for all the parents I talk to around the world, one of the common threads is when we revert to these ways, it is harmful to us. We know it. We're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. So I want you to feel good about who you are and about the way you're interacting with your children. So I want you to have these new tools. So in fact, that's perfect segue. What I want to do is I'm going to put it in the comments for the video. I want to invite you to do two things if this video has resonated with you. The two things I invite you to do is, one, share it. Share it with parent friends on Facebook, share it in parent groups that you're on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel. I'll have this up on my YouTube channel next week. So if you want to subscribe there and then share it with people so they don't have to be on Facebook, you can share it that way. So that's one thing. Share it, spread the message, help other people also adopt this way of being with their children. Second thing you can do specifically for you, not about sharing it, this is about getting my free guide, which is called Discipline the Conscious Way. And this is a printable guide that you can use that talks about some of what I've talked about today. Really, though, is helping you embrace some of these ideas backed by current research and science that says, yeah, the way you teach is you create connection with your children, you help them feel safe, you get them to a state of calm, and then you work on the teaching. So my Discipline the Conscious Way guide is yours free, and you can get it. Again, I'll post a link, but right now, those of you watching now, go get it now. Don't wait, because we know life will take us on to something else in just a minute. You can find that guide by going to bit.ly, that's bit as in bite without the E, bit.ly/discipline guide, all one word. So bit.ly/discipline guide. So check that out. Let me know, as usual, if you have comments or questions on this video. I would love to interact with you. Share it out there in the world, and look for me here again next week. I'm on some varying summer schedule, or you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my Shani Lavender Parent Coaching page on Facebook, so you'll get notified when I'm doing live videos, no matter what day or what hour. And you can also find me in my Facebook group, which has 3,500 members from around the world, called the Conscious Moms Circle. And dads, you're welcome too. Don't let the name fool you. So my name is Shani Lavender. I'm the Conscious Moms Coach, and I'm so grateful you've been here today. Thank you for taking the time to watch this and listen, and I'll look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.